Hey everyone, JASONSCHAPPERT here of MzeroA.com, sitting alongside my good friend Jamie Beckett, AOPA, General Aviation News. I'm sure you've read his stuff, seen his stuff. This guy's famous. I mean, look at him here. Because he is so famous, I asked Jamie why he's in town to tag team some of these Ask Jason a Question segments. Jamie, I know you're big into social media. I've seen you all over Snapchat, Instagram. You're all over the place. So these questions came in via Twitter, came in via Snapchat.
Fantastic.
And let's, I'll read them out to you here.
Let's do it.
First question, Jamie, comes from Todd. Todd says, what additional skills should VFR pilots practice that aren't normally included in the training for private pilot?
Oh, awesome question. Todd, the thing I would say is decision making, because it varies. I just recently started flying a J3 Cub, which I had not flown before. It's absolutely great, but it only weighs 700 pounds, Jason. A very light breeze makes that thing move. So the decision-making process of even something as simple as, do I fly today with this much crosswind, is different in the Cub than it would be with the 152, 172. So I'd say decision-making, because that's going to change throughout your career with every airplane you fly.
Yes, absolutely. And run me back through that. Still on this topic, I wanted you to bring the Cub up today because that'd been amazing. Did. But Jamie, you're a CFI. You've got all these thousands of hours. What's a little wind? Why didn't you?
Well, in all honesty, I have a personal minimum for flying the Cub of maximum of 10 knots within 30 degrees of runway heading. And today, there's a runway closed at my home airport. So the runway that's open has a direct crosswind, and it's going to be 11. So that's it. My personal minimum is violated. I don't fly that plane.
And it's so funny that, well, my number's 10, but it's 11 today. And some people go, oh, well, But
no.
That's the term I use is hard set personal minimum numbers.
Yep.
That's the number, and it's beat.
Yeah, so that's the whole point of having a personal minimum. That's what keeps me safe. And I really do stick with them. If I set a minimum, whether it's a ceiling or a visibility or the wind, yes, that's the number. And you don't want to let yourself get sucked into, well, it's just a little bit over. Because then I'll go flying, I'll come back and it's 15.
Yes.
Now I'm in real trouble.
Absolutely. So Todd, to summarize, Jamie, let's get a tailwheel endorsement. Let's learn some decision-making process type stuff. For me, it's spin training. I'm such a big fan of doing turning stalls. My private pilots go out and do spins. I know it sounds crazy. I know it's not required until you're a CFI, but I want my private pilot candidates to see how the airplane, number one, usually recovers itself.
Yes, it does.
And I think to better understand spins, you need to understand how a spin is created and how it actually happens. Instead of having a fear for it, let's learn to...
And maybe the fact that when you get into it, it's not nearly as exciting as you thought it was going to be. It's actually a fairly benign thing.
Yes, absolutely. Cool. Next question comes from Jacqueline. Jacqueline says, I'm a student pilot and keep getting sick on final approach. What advice can you give students so they won't get motion sickness? Jamie.
I know this is going to seem weird, but I'm a big believer in eating before you fly. Eating something light, like bread. But if you don't eat, the acids in your stomach, the anxiety, it builds up, and you're really just making the situation worse. So do a little deep breathing if you have to. Remind yourself during your flight, relax, everything's fine. And it's okay to remind yourself, everything's going all right. But I really am a big believer in just eat something. Have a bagel.
Yes, absolutely. So I used to struggle with motion sickness. I remember it was July. I was learning to fly in Florida in a Cherokee 140 doing turns around a point.
A little warm.
Exactly. So you can imagine my first flight lessons, though, they were half an hour. You just had to make them short. Some other things. World famous Uncle Larry always talks about have some ginger. Something like that to help calm the stomach.
Yeah.
I fly with those acupressure bands, which actually work. You can get them on Amazon. They're so cheap. And, of course, I keep 6X in there as well. Never had to use a 6X, though, so that's always good. Ginger, acupressure bands, just keeping yourself calm. Remembering what you're going to do is amazing.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to fly an airplane, for goodness sake. There's no need to be anxious about it. I mean, anxiety is good in a way. You should be. You should never feel like, yeah, whatever.
You make a good point, though. There's no rule that says your lessons have to be an hour and a half long.
Right.
If you feel like 40 minutes is your max, fly 40 minutes. You'll reinforce that success flight after flight, and your tolerance for the bumping around and the heat will get better as a result.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Let's see. Next question comes from Juso. Juso asks, at what elevation should I lean for best power on takeoff?
I live on a sandbar, Jason.
Yes.
This is theoretical for me, but everything I've ever read was at 3,000 feet or higher.
Yes.
And the highest thing in Florida is 300 feet, so we don't deal with that.
Yes, which is near you.
Yes,
too. Yes.
it is.
Absolutely. I mean, truth be told, this is one of those consult your POH. It's easy to say 3,000 feet, okay? Above 3,000 feet, I'm gonna start taking this into consideration by all means. But it's so airplane specific. I would truly consult your POH because there's gonna be so many variables that go into horsepower. My normally aspirated turbocharged. There's so many different things with that. Consult your POH. Consult your CFI with that. So let's go now. And again, that was all on Twitter using hashtag AskJason. You can do that anytime. Use hashtag AskJason. Follow us on Twitter. Use that hashtag and get your questions answered from me or perhaps two people, Jamie and I.
Why not?
Let's go to Snapchat now for our next question. Came in via a video snap.
So what would you say are the top 7 most important things to have in a student pilot flight bag?
All right, Jamie, so the question is 7 things in our flight bag.
7?
Why don't we, John, I'm going to give you some homework. John is our director, that guy over there.
Hi, John.
He's important too. He's famous too. John, you have the task of we need some subtitles every time we name something because we're going to name more than 7. Let's call this the lightning round of things in the flight bag.
Let's go for the expected and the unexpected. Because
Okay.
I've got 2 categories.
Okay, let's start with expected things first. You want to start?
Whiz wheel, E6B.
Okay, E6B. Got it?
Chart, a paper chart.
Yep. And that's an interesting point because I love my iPad, but I still have paper charts.
I flew up here today with a paper chart.
Absolutely.
I have an iPad, but I never took it out of the bag.
Absolutely. Other expected things for me, handheld radio.
Yes.
Just had to use it the other day. We had a problem with the coil. Neither of us could transmit. So I could hear, but I couldn't transmit. And I literally bought the handheld radio, the new one, like a week ago. That sounded
It
fun.
can make life a lot easier.
Absolutely. Handheld radio's got to be in there. Fuel tester's got to be in there. This sort of stuff. And mostly because, too, you rely so much on, my school always has a GATS jar in there. But what happens when you go at the club or work in another airplane?
Sure.
So, okay, there's some expected stuff. Give me some unexpected things.
A Phillips head screwdriver.
Okay.
Because you're going to find a loose screw around a trim piece someplace. It's perfectly okay to just snug it down. But my most unusual is beef jerky and a bottle of water.
Yes. Now, why so?
Well, we have a lot of uninhabited land that we fly over here in Florida. Coming from home to here, I go over the green swamp, 30 miles of absolutely nothing. If the worst should happen and I have to make an emergency landing there, there's a lot of great places to go, but it's a long walk out.
Yes.
And it's warm, so I'm going to need something to eat and I'm going to need something to drink if I want to get there in good shape.
Yes.
Because dehydration will get you.
Yes.
So seriously, I always fly with beef jerky and a bottle of water.
Yeah, no doubt. I have bottled water and coconut water as well in the very back seat, and just always stays in the airplane.
Well, because you're cool, coconut water.
Exactly. Anyways, along that means of survival, though, I have you seen the Spot, like the Spot Gen 3?
Yes, like those.
I have a Spot that I fly with. It's very cool. I'll turn it on tracking. It has an OK button. I'll push the OK button, and Ashley and anybody else will get a text message or a push notification on their phone that says, Jason's landed safe.
Yep.
So everybody knows, and they can track that on the app and everything else. So I keep that with me. It's just an extra little EPIRB. I know I have an ELT, but I just want something redundant on top of that.
No, I buy it. That's an absolutely great thing. I have in the company plane, I have a Spider. Does the same thing. So I don't need it in my bag, but absolutely, that's a great thing to have because it's not likely you're ever going to have to make an emergency landing someplace. But we were talking about this earlier. I wear flip-flops in real life, but when I fly, I wear sneakers.
Yes.
Because if you have to walk out, you don't want to be doing it barefoot. You want to prepare for what's the worst thing that could happen, and you want to have that with you in the bag. So you might even have a knife.
Yes. Oh, no, absolutely. Well, and that goes into having a knife. You know, Smith & Wesson makes the nice knife that also punch out a window. And our windows aren't anything like a car window. But if I had that situation on that side. So absolutely, you need those kind of tools. One last thing I'll end with on this question. Now in this digital revolution, we have, all the guys here, we have an anchor in our flight bag. It is a battery pack that will charge any USB device, be it the iPad, the iPhone, whatever it is. You ever get that battery anxiety when it says like 20% or something like that?
Yes.
You have that portable charger that will give you, 6 full charges, from this little portable device. So that stays in the flight bag as well now. So you get in a jam, you've got that, or
We have such good tools.
Absolutely we do. Absolutely we do. So there's, I think that was more than 7. I don't know, but hopefully people got some good ideas.
Well, at least 6.5 really good ones.
Exactly. Last question comes in, and it's regarding VDPs. Let's watch that video real quick.
Can you explain the VDP, the visual descent point, on a non-precision approach? A lot of my students are having trouble understanding that.
All right, Jamie, so a VDP, that visual descent point, we're talking about on a non-precision approach. We're looking for that big V. Perhaps we can show the VOR 3.6 NoCalis so they can see that.
Sure.
And you and I were kind of joking about this, but the best way to acknowledge it is it's the last opportunity I have to make what the FAA calls a normal stabilized approach on down.
Yeah, it's actually an interesting little graphic because it's telling you once you pass that point, you want to go missed.
Absolutely.
You don't want to make this landing. It's going to be uncomfortable and potentially unsafe.
Yes, and it's fascinating. So now you argue, do I just go down or do I just fly 2? Because we're non-precision, so we're at an MDA anyways, continuing. And on a VOR approach, usually the VOR is that missed approach point or something along those lines, or time. So continuing on that, do I just go missed at that VDP anyways and go around and try it again, or consider going to a different airport and conserving some fuel and everything else? Because beyond that VDP, they're saying even if you see that runway and it's right down there below you, you can't steep spiral down. It's a normal stabilized approach. So really a VDP is the last opportunity I have to legally make that approach in a normal stabilized fashion. I would say is a safe way to summarize it.
Yeah, it kind of is. I mean, they're basically telling you that once you've passed that point, you're not going to be able to do this the way you expect to. It's going to depart from your normal procedures. If you sight the runway before that point, go ahead and make your normal approach, 3-degree glide slope, everything's good. But you certainly don't want to be chopping the power, dumping the flaps, and slipping it down when you're, as I cross the threshold, I see it now.
Yes, no.
That's not great.
Oh, no doubt. Again, these questions came in via video on Snapchat. Be sure to follow us on Snapchat as well. Username is JASONSCHAPPERT. You can check that out there. Jamie, I appreciate you joining us and answering some of these questions, helping me out with that. It really means a lot.
Thanks for having me. This is great.
Yeah, guys, any additional questions you have, reach out to us via the comment section below this video. On Twitter, use hashtag AskJason. Instagram, the same thing. Or on Snapchat, just send them directly to me. We'll reach out to you guys. Guys, enjoy the rest of your day, and most importantly, remember that a good pilot is always learning. Have a great day, guys. See ya. Add us on Snapchat, username JASONSCHAPPERT, just like you see on your screen there, for great contests, giveaways, behind-the-scenes tours of the MzeroA.com studio, and to ask me your flight training questions.